Chapter 11. A Man Who Questioned Everything. In 1977, an American pilot and sculptor called Charles Dent read about Leonardo's great horse sculpture. Dent decided to make the sculpture, and then give it to the Italian people. It took years for him to get the money, but finally sculptor Nina Akamu made two 8-meter horses. In July 1999, an Alitalia plane flew one of them to Milan. Once, Michelangelo laughed at Leonardo because he could not finish his horse, but Leonardo was right, the designs were good. At last, 500 years after French soldiers broke Leonardo's clay horse, the final sculpture stood in Milan. Leonardo was right about another thing too: we have at last learned to fly. When we think of Leonardo today, we think of his art, his amazing inventions, and his many discoveries. But it is easy to forget that he was also a person, like us. Read his writing, and you will find the ideas of one of the cleverest people who ever lived, and notes about money, friends, and shopping. Some things about Leonardo are not easy to understand. He was a great artist, but many of his paintings were never finished, and others broken to pieces. He was a scientist and inventor, but he hid many of his ideas. He was a kind man, but he worked for dangerous people like Cesare Borgia. People tell a lot of stories about Leonardo, but some of them are not true. He could not see into the future. He did not really invent the car or the helicopter. His drawings are very different from those machines. Leonardo was not the only great man in Italy. There were other amazing artists, engineers, inventors, and thinkers in the Renaissance. But we remember Leonardo today because he was all of these things. For all of his life, Leonardo asked questions and tried to understand the world around him. How can we make paintings more real? Where do fossils come from? What are things made of? How do birds fly? Why do we become old and die? Leonardo was a man who questioned everything. Leonardo's last work was not a painting or an invention. It was a theater performance for King Francois I at Leonardo's house in Amboise. We can imagine that hot summer evening in June 1518. Lights are burning in the garden. The performance has finished, and people are walking home. They have seen some amazing things, and they talk excitedly about the great man from Florence. Somewhere in the garden, an old man smiles, thanks people, and says good night. Then he walks away into the dark. Well, that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed the audiobook. Have a good day.